Well, you're watching our rolling coverage, on India's retaliation. India, remember, had warned Pakistan, if you try to target our military installations, and then you will have to face the repercussions. We told you yesterday, picture abhi baki hai, and what unfolded today confirms just that. Operation Sindoor is far from over. Just hours after Pakistan tries to attack Indian military sites under the cover of night, India delivered what many are calling one of the most audacious and precise counter-air offensives in recent memory. That's right, Lahore, Rawalpindi, Karachi, key strategic cities across Pakistan were hit by targeted drone strikes. Lahore's air defense grid was reportedly dismantled. Last night, Pakistan attempted a missile assault on our urban centers, a move that was met with absolute resistance, and our Raksha Kavach, the cutting-edge S-400 systems, intercepted and neutralized each and every strike. And just hours later, in broad daylight, India launched a punishing response. Bharat has taken control of the skies and left Pakistan paralyzed. So let's take a look at the places that India has been able to strike in terms of retaliation. And this is a comparison graphics of the attack of Pakistan that was foiled by India. Pathankot, Jammu, Amritsar, Adampur, Nal, Ludhiana, Phalodi, Uttarlai, Bhuj. Sir, and I'd like your response on that. So this is Srinagar, Avantipura, Kapurthala, Jalandhar, Chandigarh, spread across 4 states. This is what Pakistan was attempting to attack and engage India here. But thankfully, we have thwarted that, we've neutralized that. Just juxtaposing that, comparing that to where India has hit, and this is part of Operation Sindoor 2.0. Rawalpindi, Attock, Chakwal, Gujranwala, Miano, Lahore and Bahawalpur, again the place where the Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters is located, which was struck by India in the phase 1 of the Operation Sindoor as well. And then you have Chor and Karachi. This is just a comparative data of what Pakistan was trying to attempt, foiled by India, versus what and how we have been able to thwart in terms of the action taken by India. Now, with India's fierce response, Pakistan is now begging for mercy, quite literally. Let's first take a look at that before we open up the debate.
हम लगातार इस बात के पक्ष कर रहे हैं कि समस्याओं का समाधान बातचीत के जरिए से हो, परंतु इसका अर्थ यह नहीं है कि हमारी सहनशीलता का कोई नाजायज फायदा उठाए। यदि कहीं कोई हमारे इस संयम का फायदा उठाने की कोशिश करता है, तो उसे कल की तरह ही क्वालिटी कार्रवाई का सामना करने के लिए भी पूरी तरह से तैयार रहना होगा। ऐसे रेस्पॉन्सिबल रेस्पॉन्सेस के लिए हम आगे भी पूरी तरह से तैयार हैं।
Now, there are, as I said, a number of issues that have been raised in commentaries, and there's a lot of, as I said, unfounded disinformation and fabrication that has come from across the border. Pakistan trying to wash its hands off any and all involvement with terrorism. I think the Pakistani information minister said there are no terrorists in Pakistan, and I think he was challenged on that in the television program that he was appearing on.
So you heard the Raksha Mantri's address. It was the first one after Operation Sindoor 2.0, and then of course the Foreign Secretary talking in detail, briefing the media in detail about what this operation or the phase 2 of the operation was, and how India had made it absolutely clear right at the start that we are not targeting Pakistani military sites or installations. We are only hitting the terror dens. Despite that, Pakistan attempted to target India's military installations, and there was a befitting response to that. Take a look how at Pakistan legislators who once made empty threats from their National Assembly are literally begging for mercy. Well, even before that press release was put out by our forces, Pakistan's own were exposing the infrastructure there, and how the Pakistani establishment or people on ground, the officials, were trying to mislead people, fool them into thinking कि आसमानी बिजली गिरी है. Let's open this up and go across to our guests. We have Brahma Chilani, strategic affairs expert, joining us on the broadcast, along with Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, defense expert. We have Major General Dr. S.B. Asthana, strategic analyst and former DG Infantry. Professor Madhav Nalapa, geopolitical analyst, joins us. And in the studio with me is Colonel Utkarsh Rathod, also a defense expert. So let's first discuss what we were just showing here on the screen, Colonel Rathod. These are the places that Pakistan attempted to attack, that was foiled by us, versus we are going to play out the details here of the places. These are the places that India has successfully been able to hit. Now, if you look at this, Colonel Rathod, across 4 states, you know, we made it clear that we are not targeting your military installations, we are targeting your terror dens. Despite that, Pakistan resorts to this.
Swati, this is a template from 1971 operations. You would remember that on 3rd December, Pakistan started war. And same thing they did on the Western Front. They attacked all the forward airfields. And this time it's no different. Last night, night 7-8, they tried to attack some 15 locations. Mostly they are forward air bases. And this time they also wanted to attack the civilian population. That is how you have, on top you have the Srinagar and down to Bhuj. So they tried this thing through missiles and drones. But this was negated by our alert air defense system, and all of them were actually shot down. And it is very creditable for India and its air defense forces that we really negated such a detailed and very heavy Pakistan onslaught, which could have come as a surprise to us, and this was negated. And morning we have the proofs in the social media.
Absolutely.
All debris of Pakistani missiles are falling there.
Right. In reality, all of this, and you can throw more light on how strategy works, all of this must have been anticipated and discussed beforehand. In the several high-level one-to-one meetings that we saw between the Tri-Services Chief and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the one-on-one meetings between the Prime Minister and NSA Ajit Doval. So you have to think ahead of what your enemy perhaps, can plan.
You're absolutely right, Swati. No country can be expected to put up with an adversary's undeclared war. Pakistan has been pursuing this proxy war by terrorism for decades now. And India, under successive governments, has allowed Pakistan to escape with a slap on its wrist. Even when, for example, India's national symbols were attacked. For example, the Indian Parliament, the Red Fort in Delhi, and even when the horrific massacre in Mumbai occurred in 2008, India did not seek to impose costs on Pakistan. And when Pathankot air base was attacked, India invited the ISI to come and investigate its own attack. So for many years, India has mismanaged its Pakistan policy, and the result of that is the present crisis. For the first time ever since Pakistan began its proxy war, that India has hit military sites in Pakistan. And even when Operation Sindoor began, with a series of strikes on terror camps in Pakistan, those initial strikes represented the largest aerial assault on Pakistan in more than half a century, since the 1971 war. So we are seeing a dramatic shift in India's policy and posture. This reactive posture is giving way to a willingness to impose costs on Pakistan. And I hope that Operation Sindoor will be taken to its logical conclusion so that Pakistan is effectively deterred from continuing with its proxy war by terror.
And, I would come back to you to ask, how do you see this concluding? But before that, I want to take reactions from our other guests as well. Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, like the Foreign Secretary in the press briefing today said, for 65 years, we've been putting up with this. And, after every terror attack, it was the usual that for some time the talks would stop and then the talks would begin. things would either normalize on their own, or world will lecture both the countries to come together to sort the differences, and then Pakistan would strike again. Do you agree with Mr. Brahmacharani? This is a massive shift in terms of our policy and posture. It's not just a one-off strike. India said it after the first phase of the operation that we do not want to escalate, but in case Pakistan resorts to misadventure, we will retaliate.
Yes, I completely agree and endorse what Brahmacharani said. Let me just make it a little more clear. Every time we take and counter terrorist action like in Balakot or Uri or many others, it again surfaces after some time. This time, after all, the government of India decided to take a decisive action against eliminating terrorism as much as possible. And that is exactly contained in the two sentences the Prime Minister used, that we will neutralize the terrorists and their backups. Now that means they will eliminate all the terrorists, their leaders, and their architects, which is the ISI and the army headquarters, the army's chief. That was the objective. So first phase of the attack was launched. It was launched on terrorist bases all across the international, two places across the international border and across the line of control, and a large number of terrorist camps. And the Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters in Bahawalpur and Muridke of LET has been demolished. One point we must understand, Bahawalpur is a very big military cantonment. It has a division, it has a core headquarters and a number of other formations located in Bahawalpur. That is where the Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters is also located. We targeted the Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters, not the core headquarters. We could have easily done it. There was no defense, air defense for Bahawalpur. We could have easily destroyed the core headquarters. We did not do that because that was not our objective. Our objective was to neutralize terrorism. Similarly, in Muridke, there is a core headquarters lying in Lahore itself, which is just next to Muridke. And we could have done, while we bombarded Muridke, we could have also bombarded the core headquarters in Lahore. We did not do this. We only targeted in line of control the terrorist camps and launch pads. So that's our policy. Now, let me just make a very important point here. When any country makes a military plan, it always has a military offensive plan. It always has two distinct ingredients. One is the offensive part of it, and one how the enemy is going to react, which is what must be factored into every military plan. So when we would have planned the attack on these terrorist targets, we would have definitely planned on the response from Pakistan. There are two kinds of responses Pakistan could have given. One from the air and one from the ground. So while ground attack preparations must have been going on simultaneously, similarly, the planning for an air assault or a missile assault from any of these military cantonments would have been also taken care of. In our planning itself, there's nothing that we have done overnight.
Absolutely.
So all our assets of air defense, of S-400, of our drones were all in ready position waiting for them to do a stupid act like they did. And as a result, they've lost their communication systems in Lahore. I would just like you to draw your attention to what the Israelis did in Iran. When they wanted to touch anything in Iran, they first neutralized the communication systems. They first neutralized all the radars and all the towers they had. They all of them mapped with them. Similarly, we have all these details. While we have complete details of their military formations and their locations as a result of the mobilization in the last 15 days, we also have sufficient information of their radars, of their towers, of their air defense systems and all of that. And so all these targets were well known, and we have destroyed those targets in Lahore, as we have now reported. We've also destroyed all that they tried to send into India.
You know, I brought up a point just to give a sense to our viewers of the kind of planning that goes into it. Because when you're reporting and you're watching these developments, it looks like there was an action and now there's a reaction to that. But that's not how it works. Like you said, we had all the information, but we made it clear right at the start, we're not going to target your installations until and unless you resort to misadventure. Isn't that what you're saying?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So you see, the important point, is the tactical and strategic point I'm trying to make is this: when you make an offensive plan into any situation, you also have to cater for enemy reactions. And in this case, our planners must have 100% planned for a response from Pakistan to what we did to terrorism. So therefore, all the defensive measures were put into place, war gamed and done, targets identified, situations identified, defensive equipment deployed suitably. So all that has happened in those 14-15 days time that we had, which is why it has taken 15 days to launch this phase 1 of Sindoor. All these preparations need to be made.
You have to make a foolproof plan. You absolutely have to be ready when you are planning a strike or a retaliation of this scale. Let me bring in Major General Asthana as well. Now, what do you call this situation? This situation where you know what kind of an enemy you're facing, and despite that, look at the response. The response is that our retaliation is measured, our retaliation is non-escalatory. Have you ever seen such a situation between nations? Because it almost gets to the point where war is declared. But we are still saying that we do not want to escalate.
See, India is a matured country, a strong country, and a confident country. And we have come a long way. So our responses are strategic, our responses are in all domains of warfare. And let me put a strategic context. I agree with all the panelists who have said whatever earlier. Let me put the entire thing in a strategic context. You see, earlier strikes, whether it was Balakot or it was surgical strike or whatever, it was in one domain of warfare, and one instrument of warfare was used, and one instrument of national power was used, that was military. This time, we have used all elements of national power, and when we pitch our comprehensive national power against the comprehensive national power of Pakistan, we realize that there is a wide gap in the economic domain, a wide gap in a diplomatic domain, and wide gap in other domains as well as military. So what we have done is what Chanakya says, you must put your strength against the weakness of the enemy. And that is why you would have seen that we started off with all the measures, cutting out water, or let's say holding the treaty in abeyance. That was one step, because there are 4 provinces, that is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Baluchistan, POK, etc., and Sindh. They are already troubled. So the only prosperous province was Punjab.
Right.
So just a minute, give me a sec.
Yes.
So this water directly affects Punjab, and we have to create the center of gravity of operation is very clear: terrorists, terror supporters, and Pakistan military.
Right.
If that be so, we have to create a divide between the people and Pakistan military, as well as we have to create a divide between politicians and Pakistan military, and let politicians beg for or pray for safety,
They are already,
and
sir.
realize
Let me tell you that
what
they are
nonsense
already.
their Pakistan
Pak
military is
legislators have
doing,
been reduced to tears. They are already begging for mercy in the National Assembly. We saw several of them, in fact, talk about it in the National Assembly of Pakistan. And for the moment, quickly revisit what has been hit in Pakistan. Clearly, Pakistani establishment was caught napping. Here's a look at what India has been able to do today. And like you were saying, sir, earlier, in broad daylight, Lahore defense system neutralized. It was a military strike that took place in broad daylight. Gates of Chenab River in Ramban have been opened. So what is happening is we have absolute control over that. So the water strike is happening as well. All Pak content online to be removed. This is also digital strike 2.0, which is happening against Pakistan. So these are the multiple ways, multi-pronged attack that we are leading as far as the fight against terrorism is concerned. Their key defense installation in terms of their air defense systems have been neutralized.
Swati, night 7-8, when we negated, they successfully defeated the Pakistan's missile attack on us. That is time Lahore's air defense system was negated. And same thing goes for Rawalpindi. It is a major achievement, if you ask me. In broad daylight, Indian drones were playing havoc on the cities of Lahore and Rawalpindi, where their army headquarters is. In Lahore, we actually attacked an airfield, Walton Airfield, which is the #2 airfield of Lahore.
Yes.
There is an international airport, and then this is the Walton Airfield, which is in control of Army. Then Naval College. And similarly, then they brought some rusty air defense gun. So this is what Actually, this has actually demoralized them so
Absolutely.
much that you heard a civilian saying that police chap is saying it is lightning.
Asman se bijli giri. That's what people were told. So
this
we
is
have some
what
breaking inputs coming in. Let me quickly share that with our viewers. The Pakistani media is now reporting that flight operations at Karachi's Jinnah International Airport will remain suspended until midnight today. The closure was initially imposed at 11 a.m. has now been extended by another 6 hours, and a new notice to airmen has been issued confirming the extended shutdown. So that's what's taking place. This is the latest that we are picking up. Let me quickly go back to our other guests as well. Professor Nalapat, how do you see things changing from here on?
Look, it all depends on Pakistan. India has made it clear it doesn't want to escalate. It would like the situation to be de-escalated and diffused. So India has made its point by destroying, for example, the air defenses of one of the principal installations. The fact is that what we are discussing clarifies this is the age of smart bombs, smart missiles. In the old days, you had a dashing airman or a dashing, armed forces member. Today, the soldiers are people with big glasses sitting behind computer desks, hacking into telephones, planting Trojans. Now, if you remember Second World War, the Second World War was won by the Allies because the code was broken, Enigma. It was broken by a scientist who was considered very eccentric, Alan Turing. Well, eccentrics are the ones who discover things. And this Alan Turing saved, in fact, the situation for Britain. And now today is not the age of aircraft so much as the unmanned aerial vehicles. Drones, for example, drone swarms, flooding a target, and all controlled by computer geeks sitting on a console in some very safe place, which nobody will think of bombing. So the fact is, Swati, I want to just make a point. We can say whatever we like. The reality is the Terroristan, which is now what Pakistan has become, will not change. What is needed is nothing less than the breakup of Pakistan to enable freedom to the Baloch, to the Pashtuns, to the Sindhis, and to other people, even to the Punjabis, who are not from Potahar. Potahar dominates the military. So I'd like to say that this is what is needed, and I think India has shown it has the steel to go all the way.
Absolutely.
If it is needed. And if now the onus on Pakistan. If it responds, well, we will respond. But the reality is escalation dominance is with us. And I stressed last time, given its problems with the United States, given the situation in the Taiwan Straits, I don't think the Chinese are going to directly enter the war. It's going to be Pakistan's war, of course, supplied by the Chinese, but we have got our own drones swarms, and this is where Atmanirbharta comes in. For example, foreign jets, now sophisticated jet, will have a chip inside it which sends real-time data, where it is, what has happened to it, to Dassault Mirage in Paris. So it's very important for Atmanirbharta that we have drones.
And it was on display today through Akash Tir, the Akash Tir system. And what I get from what you just said is that there's going to be a ripple effect. And if that ripple effect intensifies, then that could lead to Pakistan breaking into several fragments if there is a ripple effect of this. Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, this is also a glimpse of modern warfare. This is also a glimpse of the modernization that the Indian armed forces is going through. And that's why when I talk about Akash Tir, Atmanirbharta, indigenous comes to picture, that parameter comes to picture, and the fact that the Harpy drone did it for us in this case.
Absolutely correct. It's a constant process of modernization of the armed forces. It's a constant process to get technologies, and with technologies we have been able to upgrade all our systems. I want to make one very important point here, and which I think is my personal view. I don't know what the others in the government will think. I don't think we still want to convert Pakistan into a Gaza or a Pakistan into Ukraine. You see the kind of devastation that is there? Nothing seems to be existing in Gaza. Nothing seems to be existing in Ukraine. I don't think the government of India, and I don't think our Prime Minister wishes to go that route. Therefore, we'll continue to do targeted attacks. What they want to, they will tell us what the targets are. They first told us terrorist camps are the target. We neutralized them. They're now telling us that the military installations in Pakistan are getting active against our military installations. Those are our targets. So we have done what we needed to do. We are now waiting with all fresh ammunition, fresh technologies. And I want to make one more point here to you, that today the level of intelligence is of a very high order. Very high order because of satellite communications, very high order of other things. And the important ingredient that has gone into the availability of timely actionable intelligence is an involvement of artificial intelligence. So we get so much of information these days from varieties of sources. All of it put together can be converted by artificial intelligence into very accurate, actionable intelligence. And therefore you will find that every single activity that started from phase 1 of Sindoor on the 7th is backed by very, very accurate intelligence. We knew everything about what's going on. So wherever it's been happening, all our actions are targeted towards the information that is already available to us. It is not something that randomly we're trying to do. Always remaining in the parameters that is laid down for this operation, as far as possible, avoid collateral damage.
Absolutely.
We have not done any collateral damages yet. We have not targeted the villages across the line of control. We have still maintained the sanctity of the civilians across the line of control. They have not done that. They've killed our people across into villages inside Pakistan.
Yes,
we could have done that
because in any case, we don't have these
now
terror dens and terror hubs. So I think it was pretty evident what Pakistan will do next in terms of how Pakistan is going to react. We don't have terror hubs and dens. We have some breaking inputs coming in. Gentlemen, stay on with us. This is what we are picking up at the moment. A key member of Donald Trump's political party, the Republicans, has voiced her support for India. And she has in fact put out a post on social media platform X. Here is that tweet by Nikki Haley. And what is Nikki Haley saying? Terrorists launched an attack that killed dozens of Indian citizens. India has every right. India had every right to retaliate and defend itself. Pakistan does not get to play the victim. No country gets a pass for supporting terrorist activity. Major General Asthana, this time around, things are very different. The world is not preaching us. The world stands with us. And this is a very, very powerful message coming to fore for Pakistan from US. Pakistan does not get to play the victim.
Certainly, this is a very strong message, and likewise, there have been many strong messages and supportive messages from various other capitals too. Because you see, everybody knows things. Americans, they know that Osama bin Laden was found there. They know that Pakistan supported Taliban, which fought with them for so many years. They know that the number of UN designated terrorists which exist in Pakistan. They know the number of UN designated entities which exist in Pakistan. So for Pakistan to now play that card, they could do it earlier because they were of great use to United States at some point of time. So they could hide these and they could still say, and we had Western countries looking the other side because they were involved in war in Afghanistan. But now the situation is everybody in turn has suffered terrorism in some way or the other. And therefore, the global response has also changed to a great extent. Now, before I conclude, I just want to add few more, shall I say, suggestions for the government. Now, as far as the IWT water treaty is concerned, holding in abeyance, I think we should now move a little forward in a manner of declaring a number of projects and putting some projects on private-public partnership. Because as of now, some of the Pakistanis think that it will take fair amount of time for water to actually dry up. So if we put a number of projects on with the private partnership, that may also help. Similarly, on the economic war side, I think every single entity, the financial entity and the industrial entity, which is being run by Pakistan military, that should be targeted in a manner that we should sanction everybody who is doing trade with them. And I know it will be only some of the Islamic countries who would be doing trade with them. So if we sanction those people and they all look for an Indian market,
right,
then we have to strike Pakistan military and the influence of Pakistan military, because as I mentioned, that is the center of gravity.
Absolutely.
And reduce their influence so that they cannot hijack a country in a manner they have done.
Absolutely. Colonel Rathore, what I want to understand from you is, and this has happened in the past, Pakistan plays the victim card and Pakistan used to get away with it. But this time around, and just going by, you know, how strategically India has played this out, we took the diplomats into confidence right after the Pahalgam attack, apprising them of what had transpired of the dastardly attack, and after Operation Sindoor Phase 1 as well. Pakistan is never going to change. It reflected when we saw the Pakistani officials saluting when the funeral of the terrorists was witnessed on the roads. They were saluting them, paying respects and tributes to terrorists. Quick break. Gentlemen, stay on with us. Our discussion will continue.